Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Welcome, everyone, to the meeting. Do we have any needs for translation today? Okay. All right. I will accept a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Motion passes 4-0. Now we'll go ahead and move on into board member discussion. Up at the top of board member discussion, I'd like to do the legislative reports. The only thing I wanted to mention today, many of you probably saw in the news that the governor announced a statewide school cell phone policy that he's proposed. This would be voted on next year, so it still has to make its way through the legislature. They'll vote on it next year. If it does pass, it'll implement in the fall of 2027. A lot of schools have cell phone policies. We have our cell phone policy, but this proposition is stricter than what we have now. So I just wanted to mention that this proposal is for all students K-12, would be expected to keep personal smart devices, including phones and smartwatches, away during the school day from the first bell to the last bell. So that includes passing periods, lunchtime. So if that is implemented, then we'll be making some changes according to state law about that. Any questions, any comments about that?
Yeah, Pete, what are we preparing for? What are we looking at, or are we looking at any type of procedures, or are we looking at changing anything with this?
Yeah, we have, I think there are about 75% of school districts in Washington that have a restrictive policy like we do, which is during instructional time, no cell phones are present unless it's directed by the teacher. You can have them at lunch, you can have them at passing period. This certainly went a step beyond that, and I think what we're going to begin to work on for our policy and procedure, if it does become legislation, would be how are we going to monitor and control those devices? What's the process going to be for that? So I know it'll be conversation, I imagine, at the WASDA conference in the coming months. You should expect a presentation from us in July. End of July, about a work committee that Denise Mirich, our principal over at Scootney, ran with staff about our current cell phone policy. Also tied to that presentation will be what the committee members said about staff expectations. Because I think there's a whole other layer to this, which is not only how kids using that technology day to day, but what are the adults modeling for them and what expectations should we have of our employees. So look for a board report at the end of the month around that, and then into the next school year, us talking about how this is moving through Washington. I think there's a lot of momentum for it across the state and in other states that if we're really going to cut down on screen time, this might be a way to get at it.
Do we think it's screen time, or is there something else pushing that agenda? Do we know?
From what the governor talked about was like screen time, distractions during class, more face-to-face, things like that is kind of what he outlined in his proposition.
Did he talk about teachers in that as well? Because I'm just thinking, you said smart watches as well, and I know a lot of teachers wear them.
I don't know if he specifically mentioned teachers in his thing. I was just wondering. Do you know?
I don't think there's been the legislative conversation about what we expect our employees to do, beyond even the watches at some of the other wearables, the glasses and other technologies that are coming out that are going to be concerns for school staff to deal with. So again, I think the logistical day-to-day policing of that, how do you monitor what kids are bringing in and what they have on them? How do we collect them? How do we make sure kids who have an accommodation for medical reasons have access to their devices as needed? It's going to be a complicated one to figure out.
And Aaron, when was it going to be made effective?
So it's been proposed right now. Right now it's a proposition from the governor. It'll be voted on next legislative session. So if it does pass, we would have to start enforcing it, not this coming school year, but the next year.
So basically 27, 28.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So we have a year to figure.
We don't know for sure if it's passed yet, but like Dr. Perez said, there is momentum around it. So
okay.
That's all I had for legislative report. Just wanted to make everyone aware of that. Anything else that anyone wanted to bring up for board member discussion?
No, just like I said, mentioned earlier, we have the city council meeting this afternoon. If people can make it, it'd be great.
What time is that at?
At 6 o'clock. I think they have a special one at 4 to discuss a project that they're planning on doing in the city, and then the actual one is at 6 o'clock.
Awesome. Okay, if there's nothing else for board member discussion, we'll move on to required approvals. I will accept a motion to approve required approvals.
I will make a motion to approve required approvals. Sorry.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, motion passes 4-0. We will move on to superintendent informational items.
Yeah, just one item this afternoon. We're going to give the board an update and a briefing on the Future Ready Schools work and some progress that's been made there, and talk a little bit about what happens during the summertime with that initiative and what we hope to take care of in the fall. So turn it over to Dr. Meek.
All right, so today, a couple of you were at our last meeting. We had our last Future Ready Schools team meeting was back in June, a few weeks ago, and so this is our report from that meeting, but also just kind of setting the stage of what's next. And I will tell you, we're making good progress, and we're really close to getting to a place where I think the group's thinking is coming together. So far in these little sessions that we've done with you, we've talked about state construction assistance, and we've talked about tax rates and financing. And so today we're going to focus on a slightly different part of the formula, and that is the actual cost of the projects. And so at the recommendation of the Future Ready Schools team, there's been a lot of conversation about what is the right size of a new Othello High School. And when I say a new Othello High School, what I'm meaning is either if it's built on the existing site or at a new site, the size is the largest driver of that formula because it's all a square footage cost. And so when we started in the very first numbers that you saw what would be about a 1,600 student high school. And at the request of the committee, we've really dialed that back in for a variety of reasons. I'm going to come back to this slide in a second because I want to show you what our high school enrollment has done over the last close to 10 years. These are FTE numbers, and so that another way to think of that is those are students actually sitting in seats. At the high school level, we get all sorts of unique things start to happen. Students access Running Start. They go to CB Tech. They take online courses. There's a variety of reasons why they are not necessarily at school. So this number, from a high school perspective, is probably the accurate number to really consider. So there are more high school students than that, but we, as you can see, especially recently over the last 4 or 5 years, we've hovered right around that 1,300 range. To give you some sense of these different size school facilities, this is taking the square footage of the building and looking at those different potential project sizes. So in the black line there, the current Othello High School property, our facility is about 150,000 square feet. And so even building a 1,200 student high school would be about 120% of the size of the current building. That doesn't include portables, but all the permanent facilities there, if you thought about that, expanding it up 120%, or all the way up to the 1,500 students would be 150% of it. And so all of them are larger facilities than what we're currently in. There's also, I have to be honest, and we've talked about this a lot with the team, is like anything, there's design efficiencies that come with starting from the ground up versus piecemealing together some things. And so, for example, right now there's space lost in things that are needed to kind of connect the buildings or to give walkways or pathways. Some other trends that are popular in some school design, libraries are shrinking in size just because the days of having libraries and shelves filled with books, they look a little different today than they once did. So for some sense of semblance of what the sizes would be. I think it's pretty unanimous. In reviewing the notes and everything, I don't think there's anybody left in the committee that feels as though 1,600 students is the right number, and so that really takes us down to those 4 smaller size school facilities. And if you remember, how much did we have in bonding capacity. Remember our credit limit, if you will. Do you remember what that number is? It's okay. I'll help remind you. It's about $150 million. And so when you look at those numbers, you can see obviously we would be within the scope to do any of the demo and rebuilding at the existing site, and we would be in the range with the others. And when I say in the range, what I'm meaning by that is all of those projects, if you see that new site column over there, have kind of the full campus planned out and built. And what that means is that those prices include building a 400-seat auditorium, a large student parking lot, a new football, soccer, track facility, baseball field, 2 softball fields, and tennis courts. So this committee, there's definitely some growing interest there in to say, that's wonderful, but maybe to get these numbers that are over here back within the range of what it would be within our bonding capacity, is that perhaps some of these items come in a future project or come at a later time. So, Zaro, you look like you have something to say.
Yes. Can you go back to the other slide?
That one?
Yes. So just because of what I do for a living, why is it is literally $3 million to add 100 extra students. But then when we go from an extra 100 students from 1,400 to 1,500, it's almost 14 million. Why? You're looking at that range on the bottom. It's 199, 510 or whatever. Then to make it a 1,500 school, it's 197, 413. But then to make it 1,400, it's 183. Why such the big jump between 100 students at 12, 13, 14? But then when it goes from 15 to 16, that'd be, in my brain, it would be that's a no-brainer to go from 15 to 16 because it's only costing you $3 million.
Yeah, good question. A lot of it has to do with the central spaces that are in those buildings, and so
I would never rule out the 1,600 students.
Just
because
with
at
the small
$3 million,
difference. Yeah.
for $3 million, you get an extra 100 students. Over here, to get an extra 100 students, it would cost you, what was it, another 14 every which way. I mean, to me, it's, if you look at it, either, and I'm not saying that whoever did the research, but there's something off on that last two numbers, because if it's, you would rather pay the $3 million and have the space for an extra 100 students.
I can also tell you that these top four, the 1,200, 13, 1,400, and 15, are what the team has really kind of focused the majority of their energy on, and so they are much more refined numbers. Based on these, yes.
I'm just going off of the numbers that you provided with me. And like I said, maybe you guys put more focus in. For somebody that, like I said, that Sister Amy runs a budget, and you're looking at that, I'm thinking 1,600 all day long, because for the extra 3, I get an extra 100 students. Yeah. And it's just me bringing something up to you to see if those numbers are correct, or there was a typo, or just that caught my eye.
Yeah, absolutely. Part of the centralized space issue is when you there's some threshold numbers in here, and what I'm meaning by that is in some of these smaller school facilities, some of the centralized spaces are significantly smaller than in some of the larger ones. Now, this is all a square footage number, so this number, I'm with you, doesn't seem to really align with kind of the growth in between these, because it's all based on the same cost per square footage.
It does it on the other side as well. If you look on the other side where you're demoing to new, it's 102, so you're about a 14 there, you're about a 14 there, but then when you go to 15 to 1,600, you're, even on the demo part, it makes, That's just what, and maybe like you said, maybe the first 4 options were something that you paid attention more. Just for me, in future, when we go out to present something like that, everybody's going to be, well, there's more bang for your buck on those bottom ends. So just, yeah.
And as Bertie and Aaron can probably attest, this list tends to be right now the most place of contention because there is definitely some differing opinions about which of these are the right things to prioritize and which of them are not. I think everybody in the room values that they're all important things, but it's a matter of if we had to start to delay some of these, which of them are not. So I'll give you a good example, and you'll be faced with this in the coming months. Some train of thought is that we currently don't have a performance arts facility outside of McFarland that is large and adequate and performance ready. So some would say, well, you would prioritize this list by starting with something we don't have. Others would say, well, but there's some of these facilities, why would we build something we don't have unless we had adequate facilities of what we do have? And so, for example, I think it's arguable, but one of the facilities that's in the worst condition on this list would be the softball fields. And so do you start there? And so this list is, there's a lot of debate going on among those. And then also this particular line item, like do you continue playing at the existing Othello High School site for football, soccer, and track, or do you build new right away? So the bottom line that I really want you to understand in those is all of them have a certain element of where, unless we just said the only path is to demo and rebuild at the existing site, anything at the new site is going to have some level of shaving it back in order to get within the bond capacity, unless something significantly changes between now and then, which could be, student enrollment changes, cost of construction changes, any of those factors of the formula could be changed. The last slide that I had on there is just a repeat of what we saw before, but it's just a reminder that this is the current tax responsibility in our community, and really looking out into, if you think about the phase after the capital levy, so like in 2030 and beyond, if we maxed out the bond capacity at $150 million, you'd be looking at about $3.92 as opposed to the current rate of $2.47. So it's about $1.50 more. Questions? Go ahead.
When was the last time that a SCAP was presented to the community? Do we have a?
You want to ask that? I'm going to try to understand, make sure.
Well, so was there a time that if we weren't in a levy or a bond, was there a SCAP for property owners, I guess, beforehand?
A capital levy?
Or is this the first one? Right? Is that what we're talking about? The SCAP?
The SCAP would be the SCAP is the state match assistance that goes with it.
So
I think you're probably talking capital levy.
The capital levy.
Okay.
There you go.
To my knowledge, we have not done a capital levy in Othello in any history that we understand.
Okay.
So
All right. So this would be brand new.
it would be new.
Okay.
So I have a question. I haven't been able to make one of your meetings, so I apologize. So I'm going to have you take a question back.
We're going to have you at the fair booth.
We are. And I will make the next meeting. I made it a priority. But can you go back to a few slides?
This one that you want to talk about again?
No. That one right there. Just to me, and this is just a question to ask that group. It was funny how you said the auditorium. Some are for it because we don't have one. Some say that, well, we have one. For me, a 400-seat auditorium and to put a cafeteria in every elementary school, I would see that get crossed off and rather see cafeterias put at elementary schools and see that money be moved there.
Yeah, there is definitely, if you talk with performing arts folks in our community, they see that very differently than you would, and that's probably not a surprise to you. But and it mainly comes down to just a district our size having the adequate performance facility of that nature. And we have McFarland, so we're fortunate to have that, but it doesn't. In fact, one of the things the committee is going to do next is they're going to get a report on what the McFarland facility can do and what it can't do as far as like a performance stage, and because that's definitely going to be an ongoing conversation there. Some of these other ones are not maybe as a place of disagreement, but definitely as you walk around with the different groups, there's some groups that are adamant, like, no, scratch that off. That's not necessary. And then there's other groups who are like, that needs to be our number one priority on there. And so we've got both extremes right now.
So my next question for you is, if you went back to the slide and you said the demo to new, that one there, obviously you wouldn't have to eliminate, but what would happen there with the existing tennis courts, which are pretty new, which I think we're also getting upgraded on the softball field sometime this summer? And I see you don't have them checked off. So would it be just the three on top is what we would look at?
So those projects on the black side of that, the demo and new existing, they include only the items that are checked at the top. So they would include an auditorium. They would include a new student parking lot that's repaired and probably in a different location, because if you were renovating that facility, you'd probably reshape it all. And they would include upgrades to the existing football, soccer, and track facility. They would not include anything, those project amounts do not include anything for baseball, softball, or tennis courts, because the assumption is they would continue using what's there currently. That doesn't mean they couldn't be, like, for example, if you as a group said, we really want to take care of this middle section here because there's some aged facilities there, you could certainly include those back into these numbers. But in how they're presented right now, they are not calculated in there. So.
If you would go to the slide 6, the capital levy slide, I think it gets back to Director Fote's question and the timing of it. Go back one. So you can see the 2013 bond. So here we are almost approaching 15 years later when that, the way we framed it for the committee, that mortgage is going to be paid off. That 97-cent payment is going to end in December of 2027. That's why the timing in the next slide, where a capital levy now might make some sense to the committee to say, oh, we paid that bill's paid off. If we want to keep our taxes flat, and that's why we haven't run a capital levy in the past. It wasn't available to us. It didn't make much sense. All right, any other questions for Dr. Meek or the group?
Will you exit out of that, Marissa? So here's another way to look at that, just exactly as Pete said. When that 2013 bond drops off in 2027, if we were to keep the rate completely flat, obviously we would be replacing the 97-cent bond with a 97-cent capital levy. And I'll draw your eye up here. That is the $2.7 million is what would be generated from that 97-cent capital levy. So capital levies can run up to $1.50 per thousand. So there's a pretty narrow range of what you can collect. And so I think it's just over $4 million if we went all the way to the $1.50. But obviously, when you think about that phase where we're trying to prevent a steep decline in taxes and then try and come back out, we're going to have to set a rate that falls in that range, probably between 97 cents and $1.50.
Peter, but the other thing to remember too was, and if I remember correctly, if we happen to get that capital levy for the 97 cents and then we ran the capital levy to build the school or a bond to run the school, we would not collect on the capital levy anymore. Is that correct?
That's correct. So what Dr. Meek just did there, that 97 cents that's in the 2027 capital levy line, the board could choose to drop it down to the 2030 bond line, and that capital levy line would zero out.
typically what you see is districts, they run it for maybe 4 or 6 years, with the understanding that in that time, their goal is to run a successful bond issue. And part of the understanding, the bond resolution says, when we pass that, we'll no longer collect on that capital levy. So it would terminate that. It would be the first 97 cents is how someone presented it towards the bond. So. All right. You'll hear another briefing on July 27th. We are not meeting between now and then, so you'll get a little bit of the next part of this, but we've committed to doing these once a month, so you'll see us again on the 27th. So, thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Meek.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, do we have any public comment today? None? Great. Okay, let's take a look at our upcoming events. What do we have on? Oh, it's not there. Oh, okay. Sorry, our board docs program is down right now. But any upcoming events that we have, we've got a board workshop scheduled for July 9th, another regular board meeting on July 13th and the 27th. Summer's, obviously a little bit slower for the board, which is great for the summertime. Okay, on to the board self-assessment of the meeting.
I like the presentation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you to Dr. Meek for the updates on that.
Also, your legislative update. Thank you for that.
Thank you for the new faces here today.